Tonight on Joy News Prime, staff of Tamale Central Hospital indicted for looting the facility. It says it has left it in a really bad state. Minority in Parliament demands interdiction of ambulance personnel whose inability to fill their vehicle allegedly led to the death of a newborn mother at Fijai in the Western region.
There wasn't any fuel in the van. So I should give them first-hand checks. No.
And the crew could be interdicted pending investigation. That will not be bad at all.
We'll hear from the deceased husband and speak live with officials of the ambulance service. Minority in Parliament to hold Transport Minister before the House over controversial Christmas tree procurement by the Ghana Airport Company. We'll hear from the minority and the board chairman who has justified the procurement, insisting it saved the taxpayer money.
We called in the advertisers and spoke to them and said that you need to help us. So they said they'll pay us some money. We asked for some money, we discussed, and they came to a certain amount of money, and they told their management that amount of money was 50,000 cedis. So the 2021 spending had a sponsorship package.
But some anti-graft campaigners say the issue raises red flags. In business, 2021 ends with an inflation rate of 12.6%, driven largely by an increase in the prices of non-food items.
December 2020 and December 2021, overall inflation stood at 12.6%. This literally means that prices of goods and services have gone up by 12.6% between December 2020 and December 2021.
Joy News Prime is on Joy Prime as well as on your DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. I'm Israel Live, and this is your home of independent, fearless, incredible journalism. Stay tuned in. Insurance companies risk losing their licenses by the end of January this year if they fail to meet the extended deadline for recapitalization. The National Insurance Commission deferred the deadline for the companies to recapitalize as part of a raft of measures to sanitize the industry from June 2021 to January 2022 due to the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. As part of the new measures, the minimum capital requirement for life and non-life companies has increased from 15 to 50 million cedis, while reinsurance companies would have to raise 125 million cedis. There is uncertainty in the investor community over the implications of the impending exercise. Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gachi, joins us via Zoom for a conversation on this. Good evening to you, Professor Gachi. Now, we have seen a similar cleanup in the banking sector, but technically, how different will this exercise be from that of the banking sector?
Thank you. I think the difference will be the time period within which information has been given to the industry to prepare for the imminent increase in the capital base. In the banking sector, you will recall that the exercise started some time before the government came into power. They were aware of a certain amount, and all of a sudden the amount went out drastically. And that was the beginning of the problem. But I believe it's the same regulators who are in place now. They have informed the insurance sector from 2020 that come January 2022, this is what is going to happen. So one will believe that they have adequately prepared for the rollout of this exercise within that sector to ensure that they have the muscle to be able to take on greater risk portfolio in contributing to the management of the financial sector and the claims of Ghanaians. I believe that is what one will expect, except that we need to map out the level of stability within the insurance sector, bearing in mind that they have not received any significant support in terms of the effect of COVID-19 on them. Risk has increased broadly, so we need to know from the sector the real effect of COVID-19 on their ability to raise this capital level that are being imposed on them.
All right, so clearly it appears the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic is yet to wear off, which then means that it's likely to impact on the ability to raise this funding. Do you foresee a situation where the National Insurance Commission extends this deadline again?
Well, I cannot speak for them, but it is proper that in regulatory management, you also factor into your decision and implementation emerging development. And COVID-19 has been an emerging issue, and it comes with a lot of uncertainty as to how it has effect on specific industries. So I believe the regulator ought to be aware of this and be guided by this development.
Now, in the event that some of the companies are unable to meet the minimum capital requirement, would you advise probably a phased approach or a tiered system where a number of the companies will be allowed to stay within a setting or play within a setting field instead of going all the way?
Well, I do not expect that we make the same mistake that we made in the past from 2017. Those lessons will have to be guiding the implementation of the process in the insurance sector. Bearing in mind that that sector is also very sensitive. So that approach, I believe, should guide us.
And then finally, I'd want to understand what the implications will be for the investor community as well as for people who subscribe to insurance policies.
Well, I think the aim of this is to bring about soundness, stability, and strengthen the insurance sector to provide more reliable insurance services to all of us. And I believe if that mindset is understood, there should not be any panic. And if it is very clear that the regulator is rolling out this exercise in the interest of soundness of the sector, in the interest of strengthening the capability of the insurance sector, then that should go to encourage the investor community and those who participate in the insurance space.
All right, thank you very much, Professor John Gachi, who is with the University of Cape Coast Business School. Moving on, the ranking member on Parliament's Health Committee, Minta Akandra, wants ambulance personnel whose actions allegedly led to the death of the mother of a newborn, Augustina Awotwe, interdicted. Doctors at the Holy Child Catholic Hospital in Fija in the Western region had referred Augustina to the Kolbu Teaching Hospital after she developed complications following a cesarean section. However, her husband, John Obriyeboa, said her journey to the hospital didn't materialize because the ambulance driver transporting his wife was delayed because he couldn't afford the 600 Ghana cedis demanded for the purchase of fuel. Let's take a listen to her husband's story.
Then they will do the surgery on Tuesday. Fine. I prepared everything. We went on Monday, provided everything, and the surgery carried on that particular Tuesday. Meanwhile, she had already called a sister, Doris, to come down to assist. So that is, I left the place. I came home. I was there around 3:30 that way that I got a call from the sister that the people were saying that my wife's condition was critical. Hence, she was being taken to Kwelebu. Now, a few minutes later, I also had a call from the national ambulance. It was an unknown number. When the call came, I replied, I said, okay, they have almost reached Impensing. They were coming, so that I should meet them. I should meet them at Sama Junction. So I joined the van. On the way, we reached to Asokwe Saman. It was there that man behind me, that man who was sitting behind me, not the driver. The driver was Adade. So I will mention him. The driver was Adade, according to they say. Then I asked, oh, there wasn't any fuel in the van. So I should give them first-hand checks. So when you call, what is in the diagnosis? So I'm a teacher, a senior teacher who I taught for 21 years. You will let carry on. If since it's you carry on, when I get to Accra, I'm like I'll be able to mobilize something simple. The man said no. So that confrontation went on for some time. There were some women who were there. I even left from the car, the front. They down there, they took 50 CDs without of buying what fuel. I thought they would buy the fuel, then the journey continued. The border here, I didn't know, maybe whether there was any communication. I was just a free-born citizen on that day. They thought I was dead. I didn't show my dignity as a senior man. So the border fuel, they said, okay, we are driving back to Fijai Hospital. Madam, we were driving back to Fijai Hospital. So they drove back to Fijai Hospital, where my wife's surgery was done. There was a bone of contention between the hospital. Meanwhile, my wife was in the ambulance. My wife was in the ambulance. Yeah, it was after 5 against 6. Remember when they came to me, when they asked me to meet them at that place, it was almost 4 o'clock. So we stood at Asoku Esaman for some time, came back to Fijai Hospital, where their body was laid down there.
Now, Dr. Teria Siame is the coordinator of the ambulance service in the Western region, and he joins us on phone. Good evening to you, Dr. Siame. The family is blaming your outfit for the death of the new mother. What's your reaction?
Oh, it's just unfortunate that this happened, because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Because first, the regional hospital, referral hospital, is just some few, maybe about 35 minutes drive from the Holy Child Hospital figure to Siame. And so, and the hospital has a consultant obstetrician gynecologist. It has gynecologists and obstetricians. I mean, I know them. I work with them. I'm the head of the Department of Surgery at Siame. And so this patient should have simply been sent there, and then would have taken good care of this patient. But we have the human resource and then the facilities there. But they decided that this patient, in a very difficult situation, is sent to Kolebu, and that is just unfortunate. I don't know why. Because you can imagine the ramps, and then you can imagine the traffic, and you can imagine the distance. But I think the issue is this. It's very simple. When we were called, we told them that we didn't have enough fuel, because this is a hospital-to-hospital transfer where, I mean, can you imagine, you can be called from secondary to go to maybe the north. Our main mandate, actually, is to attend to emergencies and accident scene. And then we sort them out, resuscitate them, and then take them to the hospitals nearby. If you have to go long distances, most of the time it puts a lot of stress on our fuel situation, because we don't have unlimited fuel.
All right, Dr. Siame, you say that they needn't have sent the patient to Kolebu. So whose decision was it to bring the patient to Kolebu?
Yeah, the doctor at the Holy Child Hospital at Fijai.
Was he not aware of these other facilities in the area?
It's aware, because we have a national referral policy and guideline interpreted clearly, and every doctor should know what to do in such a situation. You know, this was an elective cesarean section. This was not an emergency. It's a planned surgery. So when there is a problem, I mean, the earliest place is the regional referral hospital. Where we have everything. I went there. You know? And so this would have, you know, we would have avoided all this.
All right.
But I can tell you that when they called, we made the hospital aware that we don't have enough fuel. And they were like, oh, why not? We can support. So you come in, and then we can arrange. So we went there, and we picked the woman. So once we were on the way, we picked the husband. While we were on the way, the husband, they told us that the man would give us the money. But unfortunately, he didn't have much, so he said he had 50. So we took the 50, but the fuel. When we were on the way, we were called again by the doctor from the hospital that we need to come back and pick the day-old baby. But the surgery has been done, and the baby was doing well.
Dr. Siame, you just confirmed that you actually took money from the patient, the husband of the patient who's now deceased. Is that regular practice?
Well, we have discussed with the hospital. They have agreed earlier that they will make provisions for the money, and that they will provide the husband will provide the money. We have had situations like that where we are very low on fuel, and there's work to be done. There's life to be saved. So we always find a way of discussing with the relatives if there's a way they can support us. Because there have been situations where they could not, and then we have to find our own way to find some money and get them there, where we have to send them. So,
but Dr. Siame, you'd appreciate that this, creates an avenue for extortion, because some drivers may actually take money when really there's no need for those monies to be taken.
So to prevent this,
it's a practice that shouldn't be encouraged.
To prevent this, we ensure that the money is used to fuel the ambulance. I mean, we don't take the money and then keep it. We make sure that we fuel the ambulance.
Well, there's a call now.
This is not a normal practice. This is when it's a rare situation where we are in dire need of fuel and we must save life.
Yeah, there's a call now.
Anywhere in the world, when you are confronted with a situation like this, you have to find a way out to save life.
And that way out is taking money from the patient.
Discuss with the facility, the hospital facility.
All right.
And then the hospital will say, okay, we think that we really can support. Because the hospital has that ability to support us.
There's a call now. Dr. Siame, there's a call now for a parliamentary probe. Are you ready to face the committee?
Oh, why not? We are very ready for it. Because I can tell you that the delay that he's talking about was a result of the fact that we were called to go back and pick the baby.
With the benefit of hindsight, Dr. Siame, with the benefit of hindsight, how differently would you have approached this situation?
With the benefit of hindsight?
Yes. How differently would you have approached this situation?
Oh, it's very simple. We should have sent this patient to Siame Kwanta, where they have the human resource and then the facilities to take care of this patient. I mean, it's as simple as that. I work there. I work at the Department of Surgery, and I'm the head of the Department of Surgery there.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Siame. He is the coordinator of the ambulance service in the Western region. Well, after hearing his story, minority members on Parliament Health Committee want the ambulance personnel interdicted pending investigations. They also want the health sector to correct such anomalies. Minta Akandra is ranking member. All right, thankfully, Mr. Minta Akandra joins us on the line. Good evening to you. Well, what did you pick up from your initial inquiries at the Holy Child Catholic Hospital?
What am I speaking to, please? Is that Israel?
Israel, yes.
Okay, Israel, this is a very serious matter, and I think that we need to get to the bottom of this matter to prevent the reoccurrence of such situation. We take this news in the system, so I did a few background checks. I spoke to the bereaved husband. I realized that it was not an issue of phone conversation. So myself and some members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health decided to journey to Samar Junction. So today we got to Samar Junction. We met the bereaved husband and the family. We listened to their side of the story. After listening to them, we found that it was necessary to go to Holy Child Hospital to also listen to their side of the story. Now, our aim for embarking on this particular journey is to make sure that we probe this matter to its logical conclusion so that we'll prevent the reoccurrence of this issue. Now, there are contradictions in the narration, and at this stage, because we are going to raise it in Parliament for the probe, I will not be judgmental, but I will only raise questions. Number one, there's no doubt about the fact that the ambulance services demanded 600 Ghana cedis from the husband of the deceased.
Yes,
now,
that has been confirmed by the coordinator of the ambulance service.
Yes, let us not accept the abnormally as normal. It is not normal to demand money from somebody in a critical condition. It is not normal. So let us not pretend as though, oh, it's normal, it's fine, there's rate. And so those bills are supposed to be borne by the state. So it is not normal, number one. Number two, why should an ambulance move to an emergency services without fuel in the ambulance? You should always have fuel in the ambulance. Number three.
Okay, so as far as that is concerned, the ambulance service is explaining that they had fuel, they didn't have enough fuel to go to Accra, to come to Accra.
But why didn't they have enough fuel? And the reason they give is that because of the festive season, isn't it? With the greatest deal of respect, does it make sense? An ambulance service should be delivering service 7 days a week and 24 hours in a day. So they should have a mechanism of assessing fuel at every point in time. There shouldn't be any excuse at all. In fact, they should be on red alert during these festivities or this festive season. That is even when they should demand more coupons for more fuel. Even if they run out of coupons, there should be a system. They shouldn't have the luxury of going on holidays as people working in the ambulance services. That cannot be accepted to be normal. Okay? Number three, they claim that, okay, they went back to the hospital where they did the referral because the hospital requested them to come for the day-old baby.
Yes.
Look, we had the opportunity to speak to the facility, and they denied this flatly. They denied it. In any case, if you are returning to go and take the day-old child, why didn't you inform the husband on board? You didn't need to know what you were going back, because when we spoke to the husband, he didn't know why they were returning back. They were returning to the facility where they had been referred. Okay? And in the long run, what did they take on board? They didn't take the day-old child, but they went for money. So how will I be convinced that indeed it is not because of money you went back, but rather it's the day-old baby? So there are a lot of questions, and I agree that there are further questions we need to ask. Why is it that the patient was not referred to Ifia Kwanta Hospital or Cape Coast Teaching Hospital? I mean, why? What kind of care was given to the patient in the ambulance? So all these things, and we must, but you see, Israel, let us not pretend. I mean, this has become an issue because of the fueling system of our ambulances. And this is not the first time we are hearing this. We are only pretending that it is normal. We've heard this on Joy FM. I mean, other media houses have done documentary on them. And we have come to accept that it is normal, so let's take it like that, which is highly unacceptable. So for me, we need to have a probe, and all the relevant questions must be asked. Why? What is the source of funding for the ambulance service? Do we have reliable source of funding for our ambulance services? Do we?
All right.
Where is the money coming from? If it is a health insurance, are they paid on time? Have they given the... So it's a total thing we must do as a country so that we prevent this avoidable, death.
All right. So as you prepare to ask these questions that you talk of in Parliament, you're saying that you want the staff who are connected to this be interdicted.
Because you see, Israel, it's annoying that this has happened, and then, especially when the ambulance service is defending itself, and no action, we've not heard the minister responsible for health say anything. So a preliminary action must be taken.
All right.
An interdiction sort of, so that after the investigation, if they are exonerated, they can resume duties.
All right.
Would there be anything wrong with it?
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Kwamna Minta Akandra, who is with the Health Committee in Parliament. We're staying on health, where some staff of the Tamale Central Hospital in the Northern Region capital have been indicted for several acts of malfeasance. The staff, including doctors, are accused of looting the facility by pocketing monies meant to be paid into the coffers of the hospital. Looting has been blamed for the dire financial situation the hospital finds itself in. The medical superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Mahamadou Imbini-Waya, speaks about some of the doctors issuing their own receipts.
Logistic for, what is it called? Logistic for laboratory. And these very people will packet the money to not go down there. To the extent somebody even had his own receipt. And I'll show you the receipt. He's facing disciplinary committee now. He has his own receipt. Are you seeing how they are pushing the hospital down? Now there's no money. And then the very people come say, we don't have this, we don't have that. Theater 2 is the same. Huge number go there, huge number of surgeries, and how much comes to the hospital coffers. So this is what we are, and all these people are facing disciplinary committee.
They are staff of this hospital.
Staff of this, this one who did it, it's a staff of this hospital. Laboratory, you are taking money. And the listing, they will go to the chiefs, report me to the chiefs. Let me tell you, at when we are having, at what is it called, where the cars are, a guy who was going to stand for what election for his community, assembly election or that sort of thing. Everybody from that place comes, whether you have insurance or not. He manipulates the thing and it goes through. Insurance comes in that, hey, this number of people, those you sent to us are not correct. These things have been manipulated. Then what I did was that I gave them codes. So if you sit on the computer that day, your code will go in. I never told them that this is what insurance said. Then the next batch came, insurance sent in and said, all these things, they are false. So you were there, you used it, and down there, and I said, oh, I left my code somewhere, somebody used it. I've seen this thing that is going on. So there's a whole lot of problems. The hospital is boiled down in problems. So what the doctor did, he himself has agreed, he made an error.
Well, the medical superintendent is also complaining about how delayed payment by the National Insurance Authority is crippling the facility. He therefore appealed to the NHIA to pay them on time to help the facility provide quality service. Now, one of the interdicted staff has been speaking and he's rejected the claims made by the hospital management, and he is rather blaming the hospital management for mismanagement.
Even those that they have sacked, the two, not even sacking, he can't even sack anybody.
They have interdicted.
Transferred, yes, they transferred them. Those who they were fighting between each other. Tell him that you had the information. I'm telling you the fact.
Okay.
They were fighting over the headship.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you this, and you can ask him the real information. It's a lie.
So it was about leadership issue.
Yeah, leadership.
Who head the lab?
Yes, and he wrote to our biomedical regional scientist, Dr. Abbas. I'm going to find out. Ask Dr. Abbas that you heard that some people were transferred to different. What is the cause?
I'll find out from him.
You see, I mean, you want to marry here and I can't.
No. I've been talking to you. I
don't want to talk to you now. Woman, so I'm not feel free to hear.
I'll contact him. Yeah, I know. I have contacted him during COVID.
But the point of the matter is that the new Dama Pro got to work over leadership.
Watching Joy News Prime, we're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. Minority in Parliament to hold Transport Minister before the House over controversial Christmas tree procurement by the Ghana Airport Company. We'll hear from the minority and the board chairman who has justified the procurement, insisting it saved the taxpayer money.
We called in the advertisers and spoke to them and said that you need to help us. So they said they'll pay us some money. We asked for some money, we discussed, and they came to a certain amount of money, and they told their management that amount of money was 50,000 cedis. So the 2021 spending had a sponsorship package.
In business, 2021 ends with an inflation rate of 12.6%, driven largely by an increase in the prices of non-food items.
December 2020 and December 2021, overall inflation stood at 12.6%. This literally means that prices of goods and services have gone up by 12.6% between December 2020 and December 2021.
And we'll be back in a bit.
You're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. 2021 ended with a double-digit inflation rate as December inflation hit 12.6%. Now, this is a 0.4% higher than what was recorded in November. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, the surge in inflation was driven by an increase in non-food items. Also, prices of goods and services went up by 1.2% between November and December. Here's more.
Inflation ended the year 2021 with a double-digit rate of 12.6%, a slight increase from the November 2021 rate of inflation and the highest since April 2017. This indicates that the central bank's target of 8% plus or minus 2% has been missed. According to the government statistician Professor Samuel Kopena-Ening, the surge in inflation was driven by the increase in non-food inflation rates, which are housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels.
Overall inflation stood at 12.6%. This literally means that prices of goods and services have gone up by 12.6% between December 2020 and December 2021. This is the sixth consecutive month in a row that prices of goods and services have gone up, indicating a 4.8% difference between the rate recorded in June 2021, which was 7.8%, relative to December 2021, 12.6%. On a month-on-month basis between November 2021 and December 2021, prices of goods and services went up by 1.2%. The gap between food and non-food inflation has been narrowed for the month of December 2021 to a gap of 0.3 percentage point, as food inflation stood at 12.8 relative to 12.5 for non-food inflation.
The high rate of certain food commodities in the Upper West region pushed its rate to 18.1%, making it the highest among the 10 regions.
It should be emphasized that from a weight perspective, in the Upper West region, food and non-alcoholic beverages has the highest weight of 0.7%. Narrowing down on food inflation for the Upper West region, we saw vegetables within the food category recording the highest inflation rate of 47.1%, culminating in a food inflation of 31.1%.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Statistical Service has conducted data collection for the newly created regions and will be releasing the rate of inflation in the coming months.
The National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program is rolling out a 30 million cedi package to support youth in innovative agriculture. The scheme dubbed Youth in Innovative Agriculture Support is in line with government's response to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Here's more.
The National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, government's flagship program to support small businesses, has pledged to assist over 500 youth in agriculture. The scheme in phase 1 will start with farmers engaged in vegetables, tubers and maize, as well as players along the livestock value chain, agro-processing and agri-tech. Speaking at the launch of the Youth in Innovative Agriculture Support, Director of Business Support and Policy at the NEIP, Franklin Owusu-Kakari, indicated that the support comes in the form of soft loans.
The beneficiaries of the program will receive an amount ranging from 20,000 Ghana cedis to 200,000 Ghana cedis. And this is a soft loan facility payable within 3 to 5 years at an interest rate of 10% per annum. This project is targeting those who are in the sectors I have just mentioned and have already started something, because the funding is not going into infrastructure. So if you are, let's say, you don't have any poultry structure, you have no idea, but you are interested to go into poultry, wait, your time will come. For this phase 1, is for those who are already having the structures and have started something in the poultry, in the piggery, in the maize farming, in the yam or cassava, in the vegetable farming.
Mr. Owusu-Kakari further explained that this scheme is different because selected farmers will be trained with some other benefits.
The following benefits will be derived from the employment for the youth. Some of the objective of this project, number one, is to empower the youth to use technology and other innovative ways for smart farming. This is the time to empower the young people to use this knowledge they've acquired in technology to farming. Number two, to motivate the youth to accept innovative farming as a commercial business venture. Number three, train youth in current modernized innovative ways of agriculture. Number four, help the youth to generate appreciable income to meet their personal and business needs. Number five, to help the youth to improve their standard of living through improved income.
Applications are open till the 5th of February 2022 for persons between 18 and 40 years.
That'll be all for business.
Right, let's get into some showbiz now. And Becky Bex is joining me in the studio. Hello, Becky Bex.
Hello, I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you.
Are you
too.
here to stay?
Yes.
Or you will go back to the morning shift?
No.
Okay, all right. I just want to be sure.
Okay.
So this evening, I welcome you with Kwabna Kwabna.
Okay.
So Kwabna Kwabna, he's been talking about the leadership of Musica. You know,
Right.
Musica was supposed to hold an election today, but it has been postponed to a different
It's actually
date.
been postponed a number of times.
A number of times, and so on the back of that, my colleague had a conversation with him, and he says that we need to get a competent, person, somebody who.
Okay. Before we get to hear from Kwabna,
Yeah.
what's the explanation for the postponement?
Well, they have nothing really. They just are not ready.
Are not ready for
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So we don't have a date, another date set yet, but yeah. So I mean, these are the reasons why we have musicians like Kwabna Kwabna speaking, and he says that we need somebody who is very competent to lead that, so that they can have or get results, basically.
You see, it's unfortunate to have some of our own selves inflicting wounds on ourselves. It's very unfortunate. In the previous years, this organization has been headed by musicians all through, and we still have issues, right? So don't we think it's time for us to give it to somebody who actually knows how to do administration? Do you see? So if we keep taking turns and people keep just building their lives out of that position, it becomes unfortunate. Because then it becomes, you see, that is the unfortunate truth. And that is some of the things some of our colleagues, like my good friend Shatta, has issues, and my channel is anger through that. You see, it's very sad when we all know what the problem is and we keep doing it. Do you understand? Let's go through the track record of people who have headed that position and what we have achieved. You see, sometimes if you've done something, it must be visible. You don't have to come and tell us. Do you understand what I'm saying? When something is visible, I'll give you an example. You see the circle overhead. See, we used to have a lot of traffic at circle. You see, it's visible. Enjoy. See, Pokwase. You see, so when something is visible, it's visible. So we must think again as musicians and find a way to get our association well administrated, to get our union well, positioned in a way that it can benefit every musician. So is our royalty. It's the same thing. But then, for later.
Kwabna there. Do you have any plans for 2022?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing?
No.
Why? Because you're not a musician. Well, Kwabna happens to be a musician, and he has been sharing his plans for 2022. He has 3 songs.
New music, okay.
Yeah, 3 songs that he'll be releasing before Valentine's, and also, he also has his Valentine show, ahead. He tells us more.
Give the fans a feel of the album and experience almost every song on it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you guys 3 play.
Oh, really?
3 songs for Valentine.
Okay. So that will be in February.
It will be before Valentine. So I'm going to release those songs for you to actually soak it. It's for it to gear you up to my Valentine concert. I mean, Corona boy, COVID boy. I mean, our Valentine concert is coming back in February. So, you know, I'll give you some songs to actually feed on before I meet you in February.
Right there. You have something?
Right, so I've just been checking the statement issued by the Musicians Union of Ghana.
Yeah.
And they're saying the decision to postpone the elections is due to a number of factors which have warranted the decision.
Number of factors. Do you have an answer?
It's vague. Is that listen, the decision to postpone the elections is due to a number of factors which have warranted the decision.
I thought you were looking for answers. There you have it. It's okay. So,
it's not enough. It's not clear to me.
Exactly.
What are these number of factors?
Well, we will find out what the factors are. But let's talk about Fancy Gadam. He says that he's the only musician who doesn't engage in beef for attention.
True, though. We haven't had him engaging any beef.
Yeah, and he's his own superstar. His people love him, and he appreciates that.
But they forget say everybody having people. Everybody having people. Okay. My people are Gadam nation. Okay. You understand? And they support Fancy Gadam, but nobody. Like they see Fancy Gadam like a king. Like they see Fancy Gadam, they don't see anybody when it comes to, you know, sections. When it comes to like
even at North. They don't see any other musician apart from you. There's Macasio.
There's a lot of artists. Yeah, that are all doing well. I mean, in the world. You know, what are you talking about the world?
No, because that is where you have the major fan base. So I'm looking at even with all the sections. They don't see all sections. They don't see all of them.
The Gadam nation see only Fancy Gadam. You know, everybody has his nation. Mine is Gadam nation,
and you have the biggest nation.
I tell you, man. We're only in the ball, so I don't fight anybody.
And you are focused on the ball.
Yeah, man, they are only fighting me.
All right. Gadam Nation.
Easy Nation.
When are you having Bexy Nation?
It's life. I don't even know what to say.
All right. But thank you very much for bringing us Showbiz. Yeah. So you're still here on Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. Over the controversial procurement of Christmas trees by the Ghana Airport Company. An invoice in circulation from the airport company suggests some 128,000 Ghana cedis were spent on Christmas decorations. The invoice bears the name of the board chairman of the Ghana Airport Company, Paul Adomotri, who has been explaining the issue and his involvement in the procurement process on a show he hosts on TV.
So what happened was that because of the COVID situation, this process about creating Christmas inspirations at an international airport is the same for every airport in the world. Every year it's done. Every year in Ghana it's been done. Even before Terminal 3, when there was only Terminal 2, inspirations are created at Christmas. So the principle is there. As soon as this principle arrived for the purpose of this period, we were interested as the leadership to be sure that prudent spending was done. Let's begin with the point about the invoice. So this is by a company called Favors and Art. I think that by now we all understand that an invoice is not a bill. An invoice is an intention of a company to do something for us. So I can send an invoice to Metro TV, say I can build you a studio for 10,000 cedis. If you see that invoice leaked in the newspapers, it doesn't mean that Metro TV have bought the studio from me. The name was on the invoice because I requested that I needed to see the invoices that the potential suppliers are sending to the company so that we can intervene by bringing down the cost. Because if we don't see the invoice, all we know is that the company will pay the money, we will not be able to intervene. So let me have a look at the invoice was the question that we asked, so that we can intervene in reducing the price. So were we able to do that? First of all, let's make the point that this invoice was not accepted. Why would we say so? Because this invoice is the one that has a Christmas tree, 4 of it for 84,000, and so people are banding around that a Christmas tree was bought for 84,000. That's untrue. We put out a statement that the Christmas tree was bought for 34,000. In fact, used. The reason why the invoice was on was so that we can make an intervention. Okay, so now let's go and see what intervention we made. What intervention did we want to make? We wanted to make an intervention so that there will be prudent use of the company's resources. And we are confident that the company's resources was better and prudently used because of the intervention from the leadership level.
He also explains the intervention they made in the process to ensure what he describes as prudent use of resources. But there's also the politics of it. He goes back to 5 years ago and draws a comparison in the figures spent on the same set of Christmas decor.
Okay, so in 2016, the spending on Christmas inspirations was 126,000, and this was at one terminal. This was at just one terminal in 2016, and 2016 is significant because we understand that some of the people who are raising concerns about it are animated by politics, and they are animated, therefore, by the political positions they take. And that is why we go to 2016, which was a different political arrangement. We all know that. December 2016, the NDC had lost the election, but the NDC authority was still running the airport, and this is what happened. 5 years ago, please remember that it's 5 years ago when they spent 126,000. You can calculate, those of you who are good at financial engineering, you can calculate the rate of inflation and then see if we were spending even the same rate, how much it would have been today. But in actual figures, actual terms, this was 126,000 spent in 2016. And they spent it on one terminal because at that time, the airport had one main terminal, Terminal 2. We are not saying that they did anything wrong in 2016. We believe that the principle that every international airport does Christmas inspirations at the festive season is a correct principle. Okay, so this is now 2021. 128,366 is the total amount of money that was spent on two terminals. Terminal 2 and Terminal 3, because now in 2021, Terminal 3 has arrived. 2021, Terminal 2 and Terminal 3 spent 128,366. We have not finished the story. So when this came up, this is the critical part of the intervention. We decided that the company, and I have to take you back to 2016, where we write here that this money was totally paid by the company. This 126 was paid out of the company's coffers. So when we arrived at this position, because the leadership was involved, we decided that, well, let us see whether we can get some sponsorship for this. Let's see whether we can get some sponsorship for this. So guess what? We called Ghanaian companies, Ghanaian advertising companies, and one of them, DPP, came up and said that, yes, we'll help you to pay for some of your Christmas inspirations. That has not happened in a very long time, but that happened this time. We called in the advertisers and spoke to them and said that you need to help us. So they said they'll pay us some money. We asked for some money, we discussed, and they came to a certain amount of money, and they told their management that amount of money was 50,000 cedis. So the 2021 spending had a sponsorship package. Cash, it's not 50,000 in equipment, in cash. The DPP decided to support us because of the representation we made to them, that they will support us with 50,000 cedis for the purpose of creating the inspirations at Christmas. So what then is the total cost? The total cost is then 128,366 minus 50,000, and that brings us to 78,366. That is the amount of money that was spent in 2021 compared to 2016, 5 years ago. This is two terminals. That was one terminal.
Well, the minority in Parliament has described the justification as untenable. We'll hear from the ranking member on the Transport Committee shortly. But the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Edem Sinanu, earlier raised questions about the role of the board chairman in the said procurement.
Well, it should be what is the interest of the board chair in the procurement of lights, etc., for the company, because the board as a strategic organ doesn't get into operational issues. It would appear that the board, or specifically the board chair, is interfering with the normal operational running of the entity. And it will also appear that there is some interest, because this is very unusual. The way I understand it, if Poladomoche is the board chair, there's absolutely no reason why any invoice should be written in his name. I assume that Ghana Airport Company Limited must have an MD or chief executive. That will, at an operational level, he would be the person. Otherwise, the procurement unit more, in fact, even that would be the more appropriate unit that should be addressed in this. So it raises questions why the board chair, as I understand his position is, would be receiving an invoice. So that's a red flag. So it may not necessarily be a clear case of any form of corruption at the moment, but there is an extent of potential conflict of interest.
there's also, to some extent, interfering with the operational work of the entity, and those are issues that are worth raising and flagging and asking why on earth the board chair will be the one whose name is put on these kind of invoices.
Well, co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Edem Sinanu, is joining us for more on this. Good evening to you. Now, you heard the explanation offered by the board chairman, Edem Sinanu. Does it suffice?
It does not explain any of the key issues. It does not address why he, as board chair, has been involved in this process, why his name was on the bill or invoice. It does not explain why we had only 2 companies, which is not best practice. Usually it's 3 companies that would bid minimum. Usually you're supposed to have much more. Then you shortlist and select, so the criteria is clear. It doesn't explain these key issues and why the board chair should be so, I don't know what word to use, intent on making sure he makes a defense which focuses on cost rather than process and policy. Just beats my imagination. I think it's deserving of much more attention. The procurement unit of the Ghana Airport Company Limited ought to provide documentation on the process for us to understand how we arrived where we are today.
All right, but he goes on to argue that financial prudence was achieved in the end, and then it cost them a lot less than it should have, or it has cost them in the past.
I mean, that only depends on what the scope of work was. If over the last 3-4 years, first of all, it is commendable when you make any cost saving. But to be able to ascertain that truly we have made cost saving, one would need to compare what was the scope of what was targeted in 2018, 2019, 2020, compared with what we're doing in 2022. Is it the same amount of Christmas trees that were supplied at higher cost and now is at lower cost? Or was it far less? So the fact that there's been a reduction cannot be interpreted immediately to mean that things have been done much better than they were in the past. One needs to look at what was the scope of work in terms of the products or the goods that were being purchased previously as compared with now to draw that conclusion. So we still need the paperwork to be able to have an informed understanding of what he's saying.
All right, there's a push for parliamentary probe. Is that something you would support?
Oh, yes. To the extent that the board chair has not been so minded so far to just instruct his procurement unit to put out the information properly, highlighting the process they followed to engage these service providers, why we have only 2 instead of 3, why one of them appears not to be registered properly. It obviously means that somebody else has to accompany an independent body to investigate what has transpired. So I think it's a worthy call.
All right, thank you very much, Edem Sinanu. Edem Sinanu is co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Kumasi Children's Park, abandoned and neglected for years, has become a transit point for criminal elements in the Kumasi metropolis. Situated in the center of the city, the area has been turned into a hideout for many criminals who rob and sometimes injure unsuspecting victims. Mentally challenged persons and squatters have also taken over the space. Nani Aljima visited the area and has come through with this report.
Established in the 90s, the Kumasi Children's Park, which also housed the Efia Kobi Ampim Library, served the recreational and educational needs of children in the metropolis. The installed play equipment and the green environment provided a conducive atmosphere for all who frequently visited the place. Richard Odame spoke about some fond memories.
We used to play here when we were just kids. It had different play equipments for all. It was an interesting place where many children came to play.
A river flows through the middle of the park with a shade of canopies of trees in the once well-managed green space. Benches beneath the shades offered relaxation for all, but the once beautifully furnished park has become a haven for criminals. Assembly member Daniel Otuo Echampon explains.
Since 2005, the giant
Since 2005, we have left the place to rot. You find many people in here who are either drug addicts or persons we suspect to be armed robbers. There are mentally challenged people in here as well.
The library, which sits in the middle of the park, is now home for squatters. Many in Kumasi avoid the children's park and its environs at night due to high crime in the area. The assembly member explains some robbery cases have resulted in killing of victims.
At night, the place is very dark. It is very hard for security personnel to work here. Some persons we suspect to be armed robbers die here after they are injured in some of the activities. The mentally challenged and drug addicts also die here. It has become very difficult for us to manage the security situation here.
Meanwhile, authorities say efforts are underway to find investors to revamp the park. Sam Pine is Chief Executive of Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly.
I've contacted about 3 entities to look at what they can do for us. As I speak with you, I've had discussions with high-ranking officials in government, and even today, we're looking at meeting some people to give us designs and drawings to see a modern facility of an amusement park, an ICT center, a library, and possibly a case shop for that area so that we can revive it. And that's what is highly on the table. What we're looking at is the funding.
So this particular structure has been converted into a football pitch by these young ones. From the look of things, if necessary steps are not taken to ensure that this place is redeveloped, as the children are calling for, these ones will be the remnants of the children's park. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Now, aboard deployment of risky vaccines, the caution of a group of highly specialized medical practitioners to government as a push for the withdrawal of attempts to introduce a vaccine mandate in the country. Last week, many public institutions began denying unvaccinated people access to their premises in enforcement of government's no vaccination, no entry policy. But the group concerned Ghanaian doctors, with some of its members drawn from Ghana's COVID-19 case management teams, are opposing the move, citing, among others, the safety and efficacy of the jabs. The group has today presented a 9-page petition to President Akufo-Addo asking him to stop the imposition of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Well, a lot of the cases referenced in this petition are outside Ghana and African jurisdiction. What do we know about our Ghanaian situation? Dr. Titus Bayer is General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, a member of Ghana's COVID-19 response team. He joins us with more on this. Good evening to you, Dr. Titus Bayer. Now, what does the data say about our infections, their severity, and their relationship with vaccination?
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. I think the data available from Ghana shows that these vaccines are effective, they are safe. I think the communication has been clear from the beginning that no one says that the vaccines once you take them, you cannot get the infection. You may get the infection, even though it protects you to some extent from getting the infection. But the greatest gain is the fact that it reduces how many people will develop symptomatic disease, how many people will get critically ill and will require ICU admission, as well as the number of people who are likely to die once they are vaccinated. And the data, for instance, from Kolebu last month suggested that in about 6 ICU deaths from COVID, 90% of them were unvaccinated. If you go to the Infectious Disease Center, data there also suggests that even though in outpatient department you might find some vaccinated people getting infected, when it gets to those who develop severe disease and die, over 98% of those who actually die from COVID are unvaccinated, meaning that the vaccine really protects people from death and protects people from being admitted into critical care.
But
look at the data that we have.
All right. Dr. Bayer, the statistics, as you've also indicated, points to the fact that there are some people who have been vaccinated who have died from COVID.
Yes. Nobody's disputed that. But in science, we talk about the evidence. The evidence suggests, for instance, and I don't want to put particular individuals because these are people's medical history. We can talk about the statistics. But if you find out the people who have died, majority of them have significant underlying medical conditions.
Right.
As a nation, we can compare our deaths before we introduce vaccination with our deaths after we have introduced vaccination. In our first and second wave and part of the third wave, we have not rolled out vaccination fully yet. In this fourth wave, you saw the total number of daily cases in some months exceeding 1,000, which was perhaps the highest we have ever had in any single day of infection since COVID came into Ghana. Compare the death figures, the mortality figures now, the mortality figures in our earlier waves, and you will notice that even though many people get infected, not many are dying, and this is because of the vaccine.
All right.
If I should provide you with further scientific data, that is not just from Ghana, because some of the data presented by our colleagues is a bit misleading. And I just cite one person. I'm an academic as well. I teach the medical school. I'm a student of epidemiology myself. And look, published data in a recent paper by BMC shows that from 58 studies, global studies that were pulled together, when you have received a full dose of vaccination, the vaccine is effective in preventing you from getting an infection in about 85%. It prevents symptomatic disease in about 97%. And then if you go to hospitalization, ICU, hospitalization 93%, ICU admission is 96% effective against that. And it's effective from death, ranging from 92 to 98%. This is from 58 studies that have been pulled across the country, across the world.
All right.
And this is what the data suggests.
All right. Dr. Bayer, you made reference to the vaccinations and the impact on this fourth wave. But the fourth wave has been described, the Omicron variant, which is believed to be the dominant variant, has been described as not as, debilitating as the previous, as the Delta, for instance. So can we attribute all of that to the vaccine, or just a case of Omicron being of less debilitating?
No, there is enough evidence, Israel, as I have just shown you here from this data, and this data was published even before the development of the fourth wave, before the development of the mutation into the Omicron. This work was published in November 2020. At that time, the Omicron had not even become a global disease.
All right.
And this was data. In our own data, like I mentioned, if you look at part of the third wave that we had, when we had vaccinated the at-risk population, majority of those who had this disease never made it to ICU.
All right.
Okay, and the data is there. You can go to the Ghana, you can go to Kolebu. I've just quoted the figures from Kolebu for you. The people who have received vaccination, full vaccination, if they get infected, they are not likely. We will never say they can never die, because in medicine we never say never.
Yeah.
People may have other comorbidities that may account for why they will die. But for majority of the people, 98% from the Ghana, over 90% from Kolebu, people who are dying have never been vaccinated. So for what reason would somebody want to persuade other people not to take the vaccine?
But the Ghanaian doctors contend that the adverse events resulting from the COVID-19 vaccinations are being largely underreported. What really are you seeing in the world?
What is the data to back that? When we rolled out the vaccination program in Ghana, right from the very beginning, the FDA of Ghana introduced an app for reporting adverse events following vaccination. We have asked any patient who has suffered any form of vaccine-related adverse events to report to the nearest hospital. Doctors have been trained, including they themselves, to report these adverse events. There's a committee, a very robust committee made up of top-notch scientists in this country that meets every 2 weeks to review every single reported case of adverse event, to establish if there is causality, if there's a link between that adverse event reported and the vaccine that the person took. This data is readily available at the FDA. So if we say it's underreported, you need to provide the data. Globally, we are doing a lot of studies. COVID is a new disease. The vaccination itself is relatively new. The scientific world has never hidden information. For instance, when people were having the development of clots associated with AstraZeneca, this was reported.
Yeah.
We didn't report some in Ghana, but it was reported in the international literature. It has been searched recently. A university in Oxford was trying to find out what exactly is leading to that, and thinking that one of the molecules that the vaccine is coupled with may be accounting for that. This tells you the intense research going on to make sure that vaccines are safe.
Now, finally,
we cannot say 100% that all vaccines will never have any problem, but the knowledge we have as of now shows that these vaccines are safe.
Dr. Bayer, finally, what do you think will be the motivation of these doctors to want to come out this way, seeing that they've been involved in this COVID-19 fight?
In fact, the motivation is something we need to interrogate. I think their personal beliefs, some of which may be religious. I have heard, from my colleagues, and we are still doing a background check, out of the 10 doctors that signed up petition, their religious affiliation, and think it's something that has been questioned. It is something we are not sure.
All right.
But from the science that it has presented, it does not support the conclusions drawn. And that's why the GMA has come out with that statement that we have issued. The conclusions drawn are flawed. They have data available to them that they are not using. The data I gave you from Kolebu, as you notice from their signatories, some of them work in that unit. And in fact, one of them is responsible for reporting that data. Whilst you will not cite that data that from your own unit, you took care of this number of patients, and 90% of those who died were unvaccinated. Why will you quote a foreign data to back a claim?
All right.
So the real motive we need to investigate.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Bayer. He is with the Ghana Medical Association. Now, the Health Minister, Kweku Agyeman, is insisting that government mandatory vaccination policy is non-negotiable. He contends that this is only to protect the country. He spoke on state broadcaster GBC earlier today.
If you come to the Ministry of Health now, we are expecting vaccination card before we allow entry. And we set up a vaccine center right at the door. To set an example, we are testing. If we go to do the executive instrument to introduce these, how will it work for us? So we're looking at challenges that can come with me as a guinea pig in my ministry. And are getting challenges about verifying the codes that we have with which type of device and things like that. So soon things will come. The Ghana Health Service team had actually been to do a strategic meeting, and they've come with proposals that is set on my desk. We are discussing, and so we may have to introduce certain protocols that will ensure that people have been pushed a little bit to go to the vaccination. But we also should not be compelled for you to give us your disease. Do people get a choice to be vaccinated? We vaccinate everybody. Elderly people are those who we've been vaccinated first without testing. And we don't see such adverse effects that lead to deaths and things like that. Every Ghanaian must choose what they want, so I should choose who I move with. So if you are not vaccinated, don't come close to me, period. So if you are going to a public place and you are not vaccinated, both of us there to want protection for ourselves. It's our right. So you don't want to entertain you there. So don't come there until you get vaccinated, or don't come there at all until we finish the battle.
The Home Municipal Assembly, under the leadership of Chief Executive Divine Boston, has begun an exercise to open up the municipal capital and ensure easy flow of traffic. The Assembly has commenced the demolishing of houses constructed in areas demarcated for roads in about 4 suburbs in the municipal capital hall to pave way for the construction of the roads. There's more in the following report.
All these ones, these buildings, they are taking it,
The demolition exercise began in the Dokpokope community of the Volta regional capital of Ho. Houses that had road markings on them since 2007 were pulled down to make way for the construction of an access road that connects the School of Hygiene to the Ho Aflau Road. The access road would measure about 100 feet wide. The MCE, Divine Borson, underscored the importance of an access road to the area which is fast developing.
We have a major national asset here, a government school of hygiene. We have a whole community here, and the place needs to be open. Yes, Rome cannot be built in one day, and assembly cannot just come today by pulling down the structures and start constructing first-class road. We'll go back onto the drawing board, make budgetary allocation for it, plan with my planning department and the whole management of the assembly, and we'll fix it. We are in to fix, and that's what we are doing.
The demolition exercise would affect about 10 households. The affected residents argued that their grandfathers had settled here in Dokpokope since 1964, hence it has become their home. They have therefore appealed for resettlement since they have no means of reconstructing their households due to impoverished lifestyles.
Government va play do school. I can't vote do I can vote. Nenya no I me vote na me enwa for enwa. Be me va go ko friko mi ajo. Mi no yame fika mi ano efo enyo na wa. Efo me kuma lo bi enwa. Enyo na wa. Me va gba ko mi ajo mi have see the autonomy o. Ka ke ekulilo yo. Akpan.
The demolition exercise was also done at Toviaji to connect Adehenu Street to the Dome Market Road. A new road has also been opened behind the Ho Sport Stadium to connect Living Spring to the Miracle Life Clinic Road. Major work is being undertaken to open up the Atachi Street to serve as a bypass and connect the Some Down Main Road. Over 5 structures are earmarked to be demolished during the exercise. The whole MCE, Mr. Borson, said the assembly would engage the affected residents and map out a resettlement plan for them.
That is another case. If there is anything, they should come to the table. I am always ready. As you can see, the community was ready before we even came.
However, road users and residents have lauded the initiative and hopes it would be extended to other parts of the municipality. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Ho.
To bring you more business news, stay tuned in.
In business, requests for dollars through the forward auction still witnessed some significant increase in its first trading of the year. According to results released by the Bank of Ghana, $235 million in bids came from the banks and businesses. There is more in this report. The Bank of Ghana's sources say that the action was based on daily polls carried out by the regulator, which showed demand for the first quarter of this year usually picks up strongly. It was also influenced by how things have turned out in the first half of the year, as most businesses demand dollars to finance their imports. The central bank also argues that it is gradually wanting to use the auction as one of the main avenues for selling dollars to the commercial banks and businesses. This is due to the fact that the central bank has been able to use the program to better gauge the actual demand for dollars on the market, a move that should help the Bank of Ghana better regulate the local currency. Sources say that this, together with other programs that the Bank of Ghana is implementing, could go a long way to stabilize the Ghana cedi this year. Latest forecasts put out by some banks and analysts show that the cedi will suffer some declines or depreciation once again. However, the rates of depreciation might be slower than what was recorded last year. As government works to deal with the unemployment situation, it is devoting this year to building entrepreneurs. One of the things, if you're considering entrepreneurship, that will make your business stand out is branding. Impressions count, of course, and we've been engaging CEO of African Network of Entrepreneurs, Ecomenta, and branding strategist Bernard Kelvin Clive. They share some tips on best branding bits.
that it said that even if you're on the right path and you don't keep on pushing, you'll be run over. So in this very competitive world now with social media and all this stuff, if you think you've arrived, you rot. So the thing is that if you arrived, you rot. If you are green, you grow. So constantly, you need to keep on putting your brand in the face of people so that you become the go-to person. So when you thought of maybe branding, entrepreneurship, and business, maybe you might think of Echo. When you think of something, the name comes in mind. But if you start losing that hold, brand, you're losing business. So I ask people simple questions. Why does Coca-Cola still keep advertising? You have all the money in the world and all that. If you lose your ground, then there's a product at the next corner. I tell entrepreneurs that your competitor is just a click away. So consistently, you need to push out your brand. Let them know the value you can offer. Let them create that perception and hold that in the minds of your audience and the market that this is what you stand for. They can patronize you. If not, the next minute, decade, when you're gone, you're wide off. So very critical in this age that you constantly let your brand be known, seen, heard by providing value.
Okay. Our government is looking to create more jobs and build an entrepreneurial nation. And so for tonight, I would like us to maybe concentrate on startups, business, people who want to be business owners in our discussions tonight. Where do you start up from if you want to build a brand? I guess you have to define or be clear about what your brand purpose is. Explain to us how an entrepreneur can do that. Echo.
Okay, well, first of all, like you said, there has to be some form of a definition of what you stand for and what value you provide. Business is all about providing a certain value, a certain solution to a problem or a need, to people that need it on a consistent basis at a cost or a rate that they can afford. Basically, that's what business is. So there's a need, there's a problem, and then you have a solution. It doesn't even have to be new, but the solution provides them the value that they are looking for at a price that they can afford. Now, how do people get to know about this solution you have? And how do they know that the problem or the need they have, your solution can address that? And that's where branding comes from. You have to be able to be intentional about letting people know what your offering is. And that comes with some level of consistency across all the platforms that you have. Especially as a startup, when you don't have the necessary investment and money to do all those brand promotions and billboards and all those things, it's important for you to start with consistency so that there's no ambiguity, because ambiguity is expensive, where you have to literally explain and have press releases and press conferences and all those things that enable people to know that, listen, you're an oil company and you don't sell juice, because people are confused. When you're a startup, you don't have room for ambiguity. You need to be so clear that this is what you offer. This is the value people will get from you. This is what makes you different. And this is why people should come to you. And when they are coming, this is how much they need to hold in their pockets. When that is clear, then the more you do it, the more you are able to separate the people that need your solution to the people that are probably just interested in, or the people that form part of your general target market. Because the more you put your information out there in the form of words, video, posters, pictures, and everything, even about you. Some people have startups, but there's nothing about them on any of their profile that shows that they even offer that solution. And for a long time, for me, it was even one of the issues that I faced. People knew that I represented something called entrepreneurship and personal development, but they didn't really know what service, they will get from me. So then they come to me and their mind is supposed to be free because that's what I love to do. But they don't know that's what I chop from. And it's only because I was good at letting them know that they can find this solution, but I wasn't good at letting them know that this is how much you need to have in your pocket before you come to me. So basically for me, I would start from there, and I'm sure Bernard will add some. Clarity is important. As a startup, be very, very, pay attention to defining what you offer. Pay attention to defining who you offer it to. and pay attention to defining it at how much the value you are providing would come at a cost to the people you are providing it to. When these three things are properly aligned and you are consistently selling it in a way that doesn't look like you are selling, because generally people hate to be sold to. They want to be properly aligned so that they will know what they can leverage on. Generally, everybody wants to use somebody. And as a business, you are positioning yourself to be used, but at a profit. So first be clear about these three things: what you are offering, how you are offering and who you are offering it to, and how much. And then when you are consistent about it, people will now start identifying you as a solution to their problems or as their response to their need. And that's how you start making money. And the more people get to know, the more you expand, because now the patronage is increasing. So when your name comes up, when your business name comes up, there's no confusion about what you offer. Then it's easy for me to identify whether I'm your client or I'm not. And that's what I'll say.
That'll be all for business. We have international business news coming up this day.
Welcome to the sports segment with me, Ray Kuampo. Former IBF lightweight champion Richard Comey has decried Ghana's inability to win world titles. Comey and Isaac Dogbe have both lost their world titles, a situation he describes as worrying. For the Accra-born boxer, Ghana has the potential of winning a world title at least every 2 years.
I know they've got a heart, but they have to have a reason why they want to fight. I know a lot of people here, or a lot of young guys, maybe some people have got a desire for money, they fight, but I don't have the desire for money. Money is not my motivation. The only motivation that keeps me going is to, represent my people, and that's because looking back from the history, what Ghana has got in terms of boxing, it's always sad to see a world champion once in a while, that really breaks my heart. So I feel like the talent is here, so whichever way I can do just to help them nurture their talent, and then they can get to the level, we should be getting the world champions. When you look at our history, every 2 years, not every 10 years or every 5 years or every 6 years, it should be at least every 2 years. So that's what gives me the motivation, because I've seen this guy, and I know a lot of guys out there, when I started, they better than me, but hard training, being loyal, and living a simple life has gotten me to where I am today. It's all about loyalty and trusting in whoever you're working with. And I must say this and say this. Because I don't hold back. Yeah, if the system that, whatever system that the GB is doing, if they are not able to change and make things the way it should be, then I think the Ghana boss is gonna. And I must say it, and it's crazy. People must, it's not about the GB, it's not about anybody, it's about boxing. So it's all about the boxers. You got to respect the boxers, give them what they need, and make sure, you know what I mean? I watch some of the fights here and I feel so bad. Yeah, it happens everywhere. We have the journeymen in the UK, in the US, but they train. People don't just come in and just one round and then that's it. You got to give the fight, you know what I mean? And I believe the GBA should listen and make sure put the structures behind. For me, my only advice, giving out titles, you know, you got to fight, you got to like bleed to win a title. You can't just give out titles just like that just because there's a lot of titles. Let them fight a good fight. And then when you go to some corporate bodies asking for sponsorship, you get sponsorship. You know what I mean? So my message for the GB and the young guy, they should train out and be loyal and, you know, I mean, dedicate to their work. But then the GB also must do their work pretty well.
To some more stories, the Hockey Africa Cup of Nations gets underway at the Theodosia Okopich on January 17th. Ghana competes with giants Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya and Uganda for a place in next year's Hockey World Cup in India. The LOC is working hard to secure sponsorship for the upcoming event. Speaking on Sports Today earlier today, LOC boss Frank Awuku revealed $2 million would be enough.
If we look at what Blaster is taking, we are taking peanuts. If even we get $2 million, it will take us to heaven at the pitch now for this Cup of Nations. Because we are gathering all the clubs here like it's been done in Cameroon, but hotels, meals, buying tickets for international umpires, they are boarding, full boarding, and then there's going to be a congress too by the Africa Hockey Federation. We have to be part of that. And then doping, just as I was coming, they were talking to me about the doping test that will be done, which is very expensive. Urine is costing about $850 and blood $650. And I hear Ghana, we have to pay for it. And they have to do 16 doping tests. And so this is money for us to take up.
Wow, interesting. Now, with these few days to go, I mean, realistically, do you have any positive indications that you're going to get some people come on board at the last minute?
Not that I know. Not that I know. We're still not losing hope because even at the last moment, the 11th hour, heavens can open. So
we have also had scenarios where some participating nations, pull out at the last minute for various reasons. We are very much aware of the issues with COVID-19 and all. Are there any such indications, or all 10 nations are confirmed to be taking part?
They are confirmed to take part. The only country which didn't confirm and we didn't have their confirmation was Nigeria. But just as this afternoon, their Secretary General had arrived, he's given the schedule of the teams arriving. They were also complaining about logistics, that playing the tournament in January, it's difficult to get a budget because now it's not that government have to look at the budget and release funds, but they are arriving. Fortunately, for the first time, I'll give them a plus. Nigeria is the first country to arrive. They are arriving tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., first batch.
Wow.
And it has never happened before in any tournament that I've been to where Nigeria is coming.
Before we go, just some updates from the Africa Cup of Nations. Algeria winning, Nigeria all won their games as well. But then Ivory Coast were playing tonight against Equatorial Guinea. They currently were leading by 1-0, and that match has been brought to an end. What it means is that they would be on top of Group E ahead of Algeria and Sierra Leone, who are both on 1 point. And then Equatorial Guinea stay bottom with 0 points. For more updates on the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations, you can check myjoyonline.com/sports or follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH. My name is Ore Kwampofo.
All right, and that'll be it for the Bulletin. I'm Israelite. Thank you very much for watching.